All right, welcome back to another episode. This is the final review for the Accel OG right here. My initial impressions were they kind of looked goofy, but they felt fantastic. I prepared some stats so that my thoughts won't be as free form as usual. I started skating these on May 23rd. And I skated them for a total of 42 days. I normally skate 5 days a week, about an hour and a half per session. And when you stack up the days, it's about 62 hours. If we do that, then that means I skated these for a total of 63 hours. And on average, I'm doing about 840 ollies in that amount of time. That means I've done 20 ollies per session. So if you take a look at the ollie pad, it's actually not that worn out. I was pretty surprised I didn't even blow a stitch on it. That was really impressive to me. The other thing was, if I did 10 kickflips or kickflip tricks per session, that ends up to being about 630 flicks per the lifespan of this shoe. So if you take a look at the toe, it's really not that worn out either. Right here, we have a little bit of blowout on the stitch. I should tell you, I shoe gooed these right off the bat. Straight off the bat, they were shoe gooed, and I made sure that those laces lasted. I don't like when my laces blow out. I hate switching laces. I like my shoes to be right where they need to be. The other thing you should know is I don't wear these in regular life. So if you take a look at the sole, it's really not worn out at all. We have some wearing around the edge of the sole. You can kind of see it right here. But I don't walk around in these. So I normally only wear skate shoes when I'm actually skating. So the sole never really wears out for me that much anymore before anything else. But on these shoes, the sole is like still good, which kind of is surprising to me because the last pair of Soltech shoes I had were Americas. They were a pair of Jerry Sues. Let's take a quick second and just take a look at this ugly ass shoe. They got so many things right, but so many things wrong. It's bright purple with a blue purple tongue and black laces. But if you look closely, the eyelets at the front look like they could be lace protectors, and I'm pretty sure I remember them being that way. But gosh, what were we thinking? Purple shoes? I mean, what were we doing? What were we thinking? And the sole on those lasted like 2 weeks. That was granted now 15, 20 years ago, but back then I was bummed. So the sole lasted really, really well. All right, let's take on the pros and cons. I love the way these look, and equally hate the way these look. I don't like them in most footage of myself, but I love looking down at my feet and seeing them. I think they're like a callback to my childhood, and I really like the way they look when I'm just walking around in them at the spot. I feel like they look good. But then when I see them in footage, they look kind of big and bulky. Another pro they have is that the stitching lasted. So that's a big pro for me. The stitching only blew out in one little piece on the toe. Other than that, I had no problem with any stitching. Nothing around the cup sole, nothing. Another pro was the padding. The sole of the shoe felt really good. When I first put these on, they felt so good. They felt solid, they felt soft. And over time, my foot even molded to the inside of this shoe. You know when you have a shoe that you wear a lot, you put a lot of time into, and it almost feels like your foot is like imprinted in the sole of the shoe. That's what happened to these. When I slid them on, I could get right to where my foot needed to be. Now, that did take some time, so that takes me to another con. The con was right out of the box, they felt like they were slipping. My foot on the inside felt like it was moving back and forth, and that's a huge con for me. I didn't like that, but with time, my foot kind of imprinted into the shoe. So that brings me to a slight con, but not as bad as other shoes. This shoe, over time, I did wear the padding on the sole all the way to the rubber. I can feel this. If I do this, lightly tapping on the sole, I can feel that on the other side, right where my finger is. Let's talk about a con. The collar and the tongue. We all have seen it. The tongue's huge, right? Look at this monstrosity. It's like 2 inches thick. Just kidding. It's about 1 inch thick. And the collar is equally about 1 inch thick. Now this was really great if the board smacked my foot, gave me a good karate chop. Felt great because it didn't hurt. But it makes your shoe feel hot. My feet felt so hot in these shoes. The other thing about it is I've never been a big fan of like when shoes look like the tongue is puffed up a whole ton on one section. I kind of wish the lace loop was up just a little bit higher so that tongue would be a little more subdued, because I don't like the tongue looking like this. And I feel like when I would look in footage, it would look like this. I kind of wish the lace loop was a little bit higher so that it would pull that tongue down just a bit more. Because the top lace loop right here, it's too high. At that point, it's just Dorksville. I just don't like shoes that are like all the way up there. The one thing I really did like about this shoe, which was also surprising, was the structure. It held its structure. It didn't feel like it got real floppy. I mean, even now you can see it's really not that floppy. It's got a good structure to it. And that's, you know, a month and a half, 2 months, almost 3 months of skating. The structure's pretty good. And normally I blow through a pair of shoes in about a month, maybe a month and a half, and the structure of that shoe is just completely destroyed. You could just flop it straight in half. So I was really impressed by the structure. One of the cons I found in this was the insole. So let's pull that out and take a look. This is the insole that came with it. I mean, you can see, well, ignore my dog hair. There's no way to remove it. My dog is always ever present. But if you look at the insole, it's just like this foam, paper thin thing. The only thing I really liked about this insole was the arch support here. This soft arch support was like just what I needed for my arch. My arches aren't super pronounced, but they're there. And I found that this arch support was really nice. So let's close this out here. Would I ever skate this shoe again? The answer is probably not. I got these on sale, and at full price, I just can't justify it. I wouldn't get another pair. For one thing, they're a little too hard to come by. Every time I've looked for another size 12, they're just not there. You know, I did it. I satisfied my curiosity. I do have another pair of these on ice because I bought a second pair when they were on sale, but they're the Tom Penny version and they're all white, so I might not be skating them. I might just wear them around when I feel like being nostalgic. I wouldn't get them again just because I felt a little insecure in this shoe. It didn't feel like me anymore. At 39, maybe I've just grown past the time where S as a shoe brand is something that I'm really, really excited about. But this Accel OG was a great trip down memory lane, and for me, it was worth the price of that. So would I recommend these shoes to you? Maybe. I think I would to people my age. It's cool to go back down memory lane and see how far shoes have progressed. But would I pay the $80, close to $100 price tag for these shoes now? Absolutely not. If you can get them on sale, do it. It's fun. And maybe you'll end up liking them. There's enough pros about this shoe that you could end up skating these and they could be your go-to shoe. All right, well, that's the S Accel review. Hey, so I'm sitting here making dinner and I'm thinking about my review that I just did on those Accel OGs. And at the end of it, I said, I don't recommend buying them. I think that's wrong. I think that I do recommend buying them. They last long enough that you can have fun with them. They don't hurt your feet and they perform well. But you know who I recommend them for? People like me. A lot of my friends have quit skating. I normally skate by myself. It's kind of nice to go back home again, and that's what those shoes feel like. It feels like a trip down memory lane, and that's why I recommend them. You know, if you'd like to partake in a little bit of skateboarding history, or just feel what it was like to be when you were 15 and you got some brand new S Accels, it's kind of nice. You know, in the day and age when New Balance, Nike, Adidas, Asics, Vans dominate the skate industry, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I love Vans. But there is something nice about putting on a shoe that was around when you were a kid that meant something, that made you a skateboarder. Skate shoes were true to a skater, and those SXLs are definitely skate shoes. And you know what? I recommend them to anyone who wants that trip down memory lane. I hope if you get a chance to see the review that you at least make it to the end so that you can see my revised recommendation on the shoes. Well, that's all I had to say. Until next time, again.